My name is Carl Franzoni. I'm a producer here, and I'd like to introduce you to Peter Chernoff. He's a friend of mine, and he's politically savvy. He could be the mayor, but we'll work on getting him to be the governor.
Well, thank you, Carl. I've been working pretty hard. It started off as a bit of a lark, as just a platform to get people to pay attention. But the more I've spoken to large groups, the more people are actually saying they'll vote for me, and have been very supportive all across the board, especially labor. And the teachers. I had a great conversation with quite a few teachers about what's going on. So we're going to talk for about 15-20 minutes, and I'm going to do a surprise on you right now. A surprise for everybody listening, because a lot of people, this could just be a rumor, but let's find out. I got a feeling that Carl actually has a twin brother, and that twin brother's name we're going to show you right now on the screen. Open up, let's turn that picture on for us. Let's take a look. Let's get a close-up on the guy on the left-hand side, if that's possible, and tell me if the facial features do not match Carl. I got a feeling that Carl is secretly the twin brother of Sonny Barger, one of the most prolific, famous, double thumbs up patriots America's ever seen. He's he was the guy that started the West Coast Hells Angels, and I've read about him. Him speaking about Benjamin Franklin and the Constitution. The guy's got a tremendous background. So before we turn these pictures off, the guy to the right is Officer Michael Rupert. And both these guys are looking at everybody here like, let's get things rolling. I got my arms crossed. I'm tired of waiting around. You have all the information you need. Let's get rolling. And down below, we'll shoot the two pictures, because what we're doing here as me claiming the governor's seat is I will be bringing together the Hells Angels and the other big gangs in this country. We're going to straighten them out a little bit in California, and they're going to have them unite with law enforcement, because what Brown and all these other guys have been trying to do is they try to isolate people. They isolate the motorcycle gangs, and of course the Hells Angels were basically what? Air Force.
Yeah.
These are Air Force guys that are tired of this, the foolishness going on with the political realm.
Yeah.
And then they also have created a situation where they've had law enforcement. They try to isolate law enforcement from the rest of us, Carl.
So you think they should be part of this military action that the police are into, or should they be an abutment to it?
Well, that's a good question, and obviously I don't support the militarization, and the history and the background of this is a lot deeper than people think. What I've done in this flyer that I put out recently is demonstrated that an officer, Jack McLam from Arizona, he was twice Officer of the Year of Arizona. He'd also been fired 3 times because he kept talking to other officers about the Constitution. He wrote an article called Operation Vampire Killer, and he wrote that 25 years ago, and it was exactly in detail about this militarization and what it's all about, Carl.
Oh, so this year it's come about again, though, and this year we have all this militarization across the United States in all police forces. We have to understand what this is about. We should try to understand about the militarization that has happened. The NRA or somebody's turning them on, and it's becoming something that we don't want to deal with.
Carl,
or the world doesn't want to deal with.
I would agree with you, and I think almost everybody would. And obviously, I'm not talking about uniting these two factions, these two armies, if you will, to be more militaristic. They are here to quell the corruption. We've had a discussion where we have acknowledged that there's always been problems in law enforcement, but it's always been a small percentage of the law enforcement that are causing 80% of the problems. And again, we don't have time in the show to go into the details regarding intelligence factors and the programs, but no one is enjoying what's going on. I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 4 or 5 years ago when they had that summit there, one of those big international meetings.
Yeah.
And I addressed the cops there. There were thousands, 5,000 cops from 3 states. It was a military exercise. And I gave them a speech in front of their 2-story black urban tank. That was 5 years ago. Oh. And yes, this is going on more and more. And we need to address this, not by doing protest and yelling, but by doing something that they don't expect. And that is uniting the people into an action to explain to these corrupt people just exactly who's in charge. Yeah. And as I've said, for every one of these banker types that are behind all this, there's 50,000 of us, if not 200,000 of us, for each one of them. And they've taught us to be afraid of their own shadow, and that's not acceptable to me. How about you, Carl?
Oh, well, my understanding is that the CIA really runs the police forces in the United States. They would be the people that would start the militarization. We haven't seen it too much here, but we've seen it in other places where all of a sudden you've got military vehicles, you've got tanks, why in the United States should we have tanks, or why should we have these silly vehicles that intimidate everybody?
What I can tell you in response to that is you're correct, and I'm going to say something in 3 minutes that would actually take 3 hours to explain, and I'll try and be calm about it. The CIA was originally the OSS.
That's right.
And we know that George Herbert Walker Bush, his real name is George Scherf, came over here at the age of 18 from Germany. Now, he pretty much runs the CIA still with his connections, and we know that law enforcement has been cross-referenced going back 15, 20 years at least with the FBI and the CIA unofficially. Officially with the FBI, the CIA unofficially, because the CIA is not even supposed to be operating here. Now, I would contend that there are a lot of good people in the FBI and the CIA, just there are as in law enforcement. But it's these long-term corrupt rogue agency operatives that are the ones that are the real danger. Yeah. And so we have to learn how to identify and deal with that. So I believe that the answer really is in some knowledge, but once again, action. So what I was saying was, this Nazistic CIA influence from, like from Hitler, this big military presence, that's the base of all this. And it has shown up over the last 8-10 years. Not so much here, but next week over in Oakland, we have that urban shield going on that Jerry Brown brought us, 10 years ago? Jerry Brown, the same guy that has covered up the Octopus murders. Look that one up, Octopus murders. It's considered bigger than the Iran-Contra and Watergate put together. And he's also been bringing in heroin from China for the last 45 years. Oh, he looks like a little moonbeam kind of a meek character, but he's a sneak, and he's dangerous. Okay, and so I'm not impressed with him whatsoever. I know about his corruptions, and I've made it extremely public, which is why I've offered to take his seat, because he doesn't belong there. He belongs in prison. Same with Neil Cash and Carey, that took $700 billion out of your pockets and your grandchildren's pockets. So that's where it started, and there are ways to address this. What do you think?
I notice that there's a group of men that have come back from the wars. They're Iraq, Afghanistan, and any other place, and they're gung-ho. They become the vanguard of this movement that we're seeing in the United States, and they're the ones that are hard case kind of people, and they were, like I said, they were gung-ho in those places. So they employ them to be the vanguard. That's what I'm talking about, the militarization.
Give us an example of what you mean by the vanguard, please.
The vanguard means a guy that was maybe a sergeant, or he was something special in those countries, and he wasn't just a regular soldier, but he excelled in things and became gung-ho. Means, he's a guy that wants to do more than anybody else would do. And I was approached in downtown place, Coddingtown, by one of these guys, and I was affronted by him. I thought, this is a man that would kill me if I said the wrong thing to him.
Yeah.
Because as I was talking to him, he played with his gun. That means that he was ready to pull it out and do something. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a man like in the place of this child that was shot. That's the same kind of guy. He's trained to do a certain thing. He's trained to do something that's so military. He has advanced training. That's what he has. It's very advanced training. It's like the SEALs, the Navy SEALs are so adept at what they do, so killer-like. They can do anything they want to.
Well, I hear what you're saying. You're talking about, one example would be is what you're saying that a lot of these shootings, for example, of the kids, or these aggressive beatings up, you're talking about these are the type of guys that have come back and they're overly aggressive, they're overly zealous.
Yeah.
They're not exactly what we would call Norman Rockwell pictures of what law enforcement was supposed to be representing, at least in our minds, as serving and protecting.
They're not like that guy that from Arizona.
Right. There's an office like Sheriff Richard Mack has a national organization of constitutional law enforcement. And if you're not familiar, I'll encourage you again to Google Sheriff Richard Mack, and it'll all come up. He's got thousands of sheriffs and police chiefs, black, white, and brown, across the board, and they are prolific. They are not well liked in the federal D.C. area for what they have been advocating. They're not interested in giving everybody a hassle and a ticket for spitting on the sidewalk. They're there to protect and serve. And so that's why, I have tried, and I have 2 articles here regarding inviting some of these gangs, because you know what, they have honor and codes. They do. And just like in law enforcement. And so I want to bring them together, because what the system and the federals want to do is they want to isolate the law enforcement and to have them be guard dogs against the public in general. But if we brought in the law enforcement together with the gangs, the landowners, and the farm workers, and we create our own strength, then what are these politicians and lawyers and banker types going to do? Basically, tell me, am I wrong? Are they nothing less than thieves at the end of a computer key and a pencil?
That's right.
That's all they do. They don't work for their living. They never have, and they enjoy their status at mocking us and watching us sweat over this illusion of money. So we're down to about 3.5 minutes. I'm going to ask you to have any more thoughts, and I would like to have a minute or two to go over a few of these points that I brought up with the veterans last night. But let's
the veterans are the ones that are getting screwed, because they say one thing, they give them contracts, and then when they go there, if they don't get killed, they come back and they don't get very much out of the government, because the government just aborts what they want to say, what they want to give them, but they don't give them anything.
That's what I saw last night, Carl, was a meeting in Petaluma. Jared Huffman was the guy there, and They were all Vietnam vets except for one young guy, and the young guy, some Iraq veteran guy, he got up and he started just reaming them for actually doing nothing. All they do is talk, and he's been homeless all this time with his wife and kids, and he just kept going on and on. They were getting very uncomfortable with him. A police officer came over to put his hand on his shoulder, and I almost jumped up and said something, but I let it go. Then they called on me, and I stood up and said, hey, you know what? I'm seconding what this young man said, and most of us are now old enough and matured enough and learned enough to know that we're just fighting bankers' wars, and then we're coming back here and getting screwed by the bankers some more, which is exactly what we're talking about.
So what would you do if you were the governor?
Well, I'll tell you, as I become governor, the first thing I'll just make a quick list. This way it'll save time. So, a few points regarding the militarization of police and sheriffs. I would ask the people to go ahead and Google Officer Jack McLam, Operation Vampire Killer. Look it up. Then also look up Sheriff Richard Mack's National Constitutional Organization. All right, we'll save this one. I came down here. Okay, we'll talk about the gun issue. Why are they really having all these mind-controlled kids being triggered to shoot people up? It's because they want to take guns away from the Vietnam veterans and retired law enforcement. That's what they're scared of, and they should be. So this guy, Jerry Brown, he's been covering up all kinds of things. I want to tell you real quick that he's covered up the octopus murders. Google octopus murders. He was given this information as Attorney General, and it is connected to Michael Rupert's YouTube, where he confronted John Deutsch. So Google this: Michael Rupert confronts CIA Director John Deutsch YouTube. Watch what happens. Okay, so I've addressed that, and as far as the other issues, I will reduce mortgages and rents 75%. Everybody go like this, say goodbye to the bankers. Any bar attorneys in public office in California will have the option to either disassociate from the bar or pack their bags. Solar and wind energy technology will be main-tracked big time. Proposition 45 insurance will not happen. As a matter of fact, the input of insurance specialists in California will utilize the blueprint of a proven program, whereas all necessary insurances will be provided for at least 75% less than what's happening now. How? Well, it's a no-brainer. No lawyers and no TV commercials. Is that acceptable to you? The homeless issue will be solved, and any religious 501c3 nonprofit churches that refuse to facilitate and absorbing those on the street will be arrested and shut down based on false advertising, because they tout that they do unto others, don't they? All right, now I got two last ones. Contractors will have plenty to do, starting with building 10,000 football field-sized greenhouses for growing safe, clean organics. And after they finish those 10,000, first 10,000, they're going to build 10,000 more, Carl, and they're going to be using general hydroponic operations, and we'll have work for anybody who wants to work in these huge greenhouses, utilizing the blueprint of the South Los Angeles urban gardens. And so that is what I'll finish with, and I'm going to let you wrap this up and ask anything or just add on to a few things.
I don't know how much time we have, but you sounded pretty good today, and I hope this gets out to a lot of people. And this is Santa Rosa, California.
Yes.
And we need a strong leader.
Well, I would be offering to work with no salary and be your servant, Carl.
Well, here we go.
The people need to be the leaders. I'll be the servant.
Let's see what's going on.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, sir.